everybody. So I'm posting on a different day this week because I felt like I was kind of monopolizing all of the choosing of topics and I wanted to spread it around a little bit. So I did ask Mr. Pagan Possibilities to choose a topic for this week. However, to ask him to do that, I had to then follow suit because I can't really have him announce a topic when I'm going first because I would be announcing the topic. Anyhow, he did choose nature for this week, and I was overjoyed that he chose nature because there's been this sort of topic I've been wanting to talk about, and I hadn't really figured out how to fit it in. And nature, quote, is the perfect topic for this. I keep flashing my scrubs, which would probably get me in trouble. So, here it is. I want to talk about the definition of nature. And as always, let me preface this by saying that it's not meant to be definitive for anyone, and it's my take on things. It's my 10 cents worth. Is that right? 2 cents worth? 5 cents worth? What's the denomination for that? Anyway, I used to, and still to some degree, feel like, everything had to be natural, wood and whatever when it came to workings. And I'm not editing this, so anything that comes out of my mouth is, there it is. I just don't have time to edit today. I've had exams, and I always have exams. Every time I post, I've had an exam. It's summer, well, spring, and I have exams. And I'm babbling. So, back on track. Yeah, so, back when I was sort of like a little fledgling pagan. What? We need a cool term for that. Like, little goths or baby bats. What are little pagans? Itty bitty pocket pagans or something. I'm so gonna get hate mail for that. But back when I was beginning, I was really concerned with everything being natural. Probably because one of the first books that I read was Buckland, and he talks very much about keeping things natural and wood and horn and so on. But now that I've become a scientist, I am a little bit more flexible about the whole thing because, and I'll tell you why, and this is, again, this is, take it for what you will. As most of you know, everything is made of atoms, and atoms combine in particular arrangements to create elements. Now, the interesting thing about all of this, and I'm even going to cut some slack here. I'm not going to take it to like the atomic level. All atoms are fairly created equally, but how an atom is structured does determine the element associated with that atom, and more complicated atoms, and I think I misspoke a few minutes ago, so if you're planning on sending me a message, yes, atoms are, in fact, elements, and not the earth, wind, fire kind, but as you combine those elements, you get these molecules that become other things. Now, why does this all matter? Well, first of all of these things come from, are you ready for this? This is super cool. They all come from stars. Millions and billions and gajillions and insert your illions of years ago, these things came raining down and sort of combined into various elements, molecules, so on. And so that means that everything that we encounter comes from a similar source. Further, the argument that natural is good and not natural is bad is sort of erroneous, and I'll point this out in a moment. But whether we make things, whether we combine things like plastics. I say this like I'm holding up some sort of very esoteric sort of tool. It's an ice scraper. I do not use this in spellworking. It just happened to be at hand. But whether we're talking about plastic or we're talking about glass, which is largely man-made, guys. Whether we're talking about metal, again, largely man-purified, it's still just a combination of atoms. So that being said, if we're shaping things and everything else, then why exactly are we saying that you absolutely cannot? I guess we don't say absolutely cannot, but why do we sort of buy into the fact that you should have a natural this or you should have a natural that? I would say that it is acceptable and sometimes financially preferable to go with synthetic items. Now, and I'm running out of time here because I realize I'm on a 10-minute limit. So as to not seem too scattered, I'm going to try to bring it in for a landing. Now, the main argument that I've heard against plastic, against resins, against that sort of thing on an altar or in witchcraft or in spellwork, paganism, whatever, is that plastics off gas, they produce toxins, they break down into toxic things, they're not part of the natural order. But I would like to draw your attention to the humble cyanide, which is, it's a cyanate grouping, it's a carbon and a nitrogen, and those are two of the most abundant elements that you can find in nature, and they readily occur in nature, and still toxic, not something you'd want to eat. This is true of toxic plants and so on. So, this being said, all I'm saying to you is before you immediately rule something out because it's synthetic, because it's not natural, because it's whatever, I would say take a moment and think about the fact that these are all coming from stellar elements. They come raining down on the planet billions of years ago. Again, insert your aliens, broken down dinosaurs, and so on. And how those things are arranged is sort of an almost alchemical approach to crafting things that didn't exist before. Now, like I said, this is completely up to other people's interpretations for what's right for them, but I would say that this knowledge, this learning about this common ancestry of all of the materials that we find in nature or we produce from things that we find in nature has sort of led me to be a little bit more flexible about what I consider to be natural and acceptable. Now, does that mean that I'm going to work with like motor oil and dioxins and so on? Well, no, that would be stupid in most cases. But it does mean that I'm much less likely to rule out something like a ritual knife because it has a plastic handle than I used to be. I hope this helps, or at least gets you thinking, and even if that means that you think I'm an idiot, that is perfectly acceptable. Send that my way, and it's always good growth material. Anyhow, blessed be, guys, and I will see you next week.